hello, and welcome back to the channel. It's your public health community safe space, and today we have a very interesting topic. It's going to span the US, the Caribbean, and take us to Africa. Are you ready for the journey? As usual, we'll take a walk, we'll have a discussion. Let's get started. I'm sure you're eager to hear what we'll be discussing, as I'm eager to share it with you. Remember, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if it gives you the opportunity to hype the video, please do hype the video. Looking forward to our discussion. Let's go. Yes, so today we're in the park and we're going to walk the trail. So let's get the conversation started. In the 1970s, the average man had significantly higher sperm counts than today. Families were larger. Fertility was expected. Here we are, and the topic will be infertility crisis exposed from the 1970s to today, and we're covering the US, Caribbean, and Africa. They will be compared. So let's continue. Families were larger. Fertility was expected. Now, 1 in 6 people globally experience infertility today. Male fertility has dropped by over 50% in just a few decades. And it's happening across continents, from the United States to the Caribbean to Africa. But here's the question no one is asking clearly. Did infertility increase everywhere equally, or did something change differently across regions? That is something we have to ask ourselves. Because if the patterns are different, then the causes may be hiding in how we live, what we eat, and what we've normalized. This is not just a fertility issue. Oh no. This is a public health warning across generations. And it's something that we're going to discuss data and show why we can come to these conclusions. Let's ground this in real numbers. In the 1970s, from a global estimate, infertility affected roughly 8 to 10% of couples. Today, approximately 15 to 17% of couples globally struggle with infertility. That's nearly double in some populations. Male fertility, where sperm counts declined approximately 50 to 60% between 1973 and 2018. This continues to decline about 1 to 2% per year. This is not just better diagnosis. This is a biological shift. Now let's break it down across regions. The United States, in the 1970s, the estimated infertility was approximately 8 to 11%. Earlier childbearing that started in most people in their 20s, and lower obesity rates, approximately 15% lower. Today, however, infertility is approximately 12 to 15% of couples, where women are delaying childbirth into their 30s and 40s. And this has been a discussion that many people have had about this delay for women seeking career over families. Obesity is now 40% in adults, and we have things like a high exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals and ultra-processed foods that most people say these ultra-processed foods consume about 50 to 60% of our diet, which is true. The US shows a steady lifestyle-driven rise in infertility. Now let's go from the US. Let's take a look at the Caribbean. In the 1970s, there was limited recorded infertility data within the Caribbean, but there were high fertility rates. We could tell by the amount of children per family. and diets were rich in fresh produce, seafood, minimal processed foods were available. While today, in the Caribbean, infertility is estimated at 10 to 15%, which varies by island. There's a rising obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. The Caribbean now has one of the fastest growing chronic disease burdens globally. The key shift here being from traditional diets to imported processed foods. Now, as we take this, we go to Africa with the sub-Saharan focus, where in the 1970s Africa, high fertility rates were seen and infertility existed, but often hidden or stigmatized. The rates back then were estimated at approximately 10 to 20% in some regions. Today, however, infertility remains high at 15 to 30% in some areas of Africa, where the unique drivers are untreated infections. We're talking about STIs and reproductive infections, limited access to care, and that is a big driver. That limited access to care is something that many have discussed, as well as postpartum complications. But now, in Africa, there's a new layer. Can you hear the cars? Yes, still it's so beautiful here. There's a new layer. Let's continue. Urbanization, environmental pollution, and diet shifts have become part of the conversation. Africa shows a dual burden, however, with traditional causes tied to modern lifestyle shifts. Across all regions, one thing is consistent. Male fertility is declining globally. Key statistics show that sperm counts have dropped over 50% globally since the 1970s. Testosterone levels are also declining in some populations. You would ask why? We go back to the answer: ultra-processed diets. These are linked to lower sperm concentration, hormonal imbalance, which is most extreme in the United States, and there is a rise in the Caribbean and urban Africa. Another factor is the chemical exposure. Plastics, BPAs, always put on the table, pesticides, and these mimic hormones and disrupt reproductive systems. Then we have the one that everybody is familiar with, and this is lifestyle, how lifestyles have changed. We have things to consider like smoking, alcohol, sedentary living, which is a big factor. People don't move around anymore. More technology, less movement, and heat exposure. Now, when we talk about heat exposure, I'm going to say something that a lot of women don't even expect to hear. But those tight clothing, yes, that's heat. And our devices, yes, heat is created there as well. Female fertility hasn't declined in the same way biologically, but the conditions around it have changed dramatically. Key drivers are delayed childbearing, that's within the US and the Caribbean, fertility naturally declining after age 35 for women, and we see that more women are pursuing education and careers. Now, another point to consider is chronic disease. We have things like obesity, diabetes, PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, all increasing across all three regions. Now, with the increase across all three regions, we now take a look at the environmental exposure. We have air pollution and chemical exposure. These are linked to low and lowering egg quality and reduced implantation success. Despite different histories, all three regions are now converging towards similar risk. Now, we look at food process and its consumption of processed foods. We have environmental toxins, we have chronic disease, stress, and urban living. Different starting points, but the same direction. Now, the real question, can this be reversed or at least improved? Let's take a look at some of the points, the factors, because now we're looking at solutions and prevention. So the question is, can this be reversed or at least improved? First point to consider is a nutrition reset, reducing ultra-processed foods where we increase whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats. Doing this to our diet, it directly impacts hormone balance. And that's what we want to ensure that we're impacting, is hormone balance. Then the second point is solution would be lifestyle changes. Reduce smoking and alcohol, increase physical activity, and manage stress. There is something that most people call a work-life balance. And if we don't have that balance, then burnout and an increase in stress becomes a factor. The third point to consider, or solution or prevention, reduce chemical exposure. Avoid heating food in plastics. Choose cleaner personal care products and be aware of environmental toxins. Then our fourth point, early screening and awareness. Fertility testing earlier, education for both men and women. Oftentimes, when we talk about infertility, people tend to refer to it as a female problem. It's not. So we want education for both men and women. Public health responsibilities are fifth point, or fifth and final solution that we'll post out today. Public health responsibility. This is bigger than individuals. We need better food systems, environmental regulation, access to reproductive health care. Now, with all this said, infertility is not just a private struggle. No, it's a global signal. From the 1970s to today, something has changed. We all could see that. Across the US, the Caribbean, and Africa, different paths, but same warning signs. We have had conversations where we've noticed, even in the Caribbean, Jamaica's Prime Minister, the Honorable Andrew Holness, has appealed to the nation to take a better look at infertility and reproductivity. And this, for my Caribbean brothers and sisters, is a conversation built around causes, prevention, and solutions. Now, from the 1970s to today, something has changed. Obviously, we said that. Across the US, the Caribbean, and Africa, different paths, same warning signs. The question is no longer, why can't people conceive? No, that's not the question. The question is, what are we doing to the human body that it can no longer do what it was designed to do? Let me repeat that question. What are we doing to our bodies? What are we doing that our bodies can no longer do what it was designed to do? This is a question I want you to walk away with, but more so, the information is here. And if you have to watch this video 2 or 3 times to gather everything you need, I want you to self-reflect. I want you to understand what we are doing to ourselves, the implication it has not just on us currently, but our children, our grandchildren. And make a conscious decision. You cannot do everything all at once, but small changes. Ladies, let's let go of some of those tight clothing. You know, warm our food in something other than plastic. Simple things, simple changes. Let's get out and do what we're doing today, have a walk. But right now, I want you to know that your knowledge has increased. Your perspective is growing. I'm advocating for you so you could advocate for yourself. When was your last appointment with your doctor? Get yourself checked out, because your health is definitely your wealth. Take a walk, enjoy the day. And as always, I'll be back with another topic. I'm looking forward to your comments in the comment section. Like, share, and always subscribe. And we'll talk again. It's a beautiful day for a walk.